Hi everybody, thank you for joining me today. So we're going to be doing our Friday sketch, and we're using the Operation Right Home Sketch 184. And I make sure to leave it here long enough so that if you want, you can pause and get the measurements off the sketch that they've provided. So for my sketches today, or my cards today, I'm going to be using the Kaiser Craft Cherry Tree Lane. And I'm showing you here just how I figure out exactly which size of my dies that is going to get as close to the 2.5 inch circle they have on the sketch. And then once I figure that out, I pick out my papers and I get to cutting and creating all of the elements of the sketch. So for the base, they normally have 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I always do a border on my cards, so I'll do a mat that's 1/8 of an inch, and then I'll do a top piece that is 1/8 of an inch shorter than that. So the mat is, what is that I usually do? 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and then the top piece would be 4 inches by 5 1/4. You know, your typical mat. But I think on this one, what I decided to do was the base paper. I just did it at 4 by 5 1/4 to give it a border around the bottom page, and then I gave layers to all the other sections. So you'll see here I'm doing the strip that's 5 1/2 by, I think it's 3/4 inch. So I created that and just created 1/8 of an inch bigger, so that way it would have a mat for that. And I did that for each square. So each of the ones with the measurements, I think even the circle, I wind up doing layered, so that way there's a solid black and then the white, and then I actually use a sentiment from the paper pack for the final piece. And I've started to, on some of these, using my tape runner and the art glitter glue. I know some people use one or the other. I find, for me, it's been working better using both. And what it does is, if I lay it down and I don't get it right, a lot of times, because I use the glue, it's easier to pull it back up and get it readjusted. Because I will say this, doing 1/8 of an inch as far as your border, it does not give you a lot of wiggle room. You know, when you do the 1/4 of an inch, you usually can see the difference because you have a lot more that's sticking out. And when you do 1/8 of an inch, sometimes you can be slightly off. So now we're going to attach our base piece to the card fronts. And now that I'm looking at myself putting it on, I didn't do it 4 by 5 1/4. I actually did the 1/8 of an inch measurement for the pattern paper. So I made it 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And the card base itself is what gives that piece the border. So once again, just going around and then adding the glue. And then once we have that on, we're going to start doing our layers. So on the lighter background, I'm adding the green strips. And then for the one that's more on the tan side, I'm using the pink. The pinkish color, I should say. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one. And if you go to attach and there's a little bit sticking up, or there's any bit that's sticking over the edges, you can always just trim it with your scissors. And that's usually the quickest way I find to make everything line up. Alright, so now that we got those on, we're going to go ahead and start figuring out exactly how everything is going to lay down. And at first I was just going to use the tape, and then because of the thickness with the mats on everything, I decided to go ahead and use the glue as well, because I didn't want anything to start lifting up. And then I'm just adding the strip. And then I kind of lay out just to see, make sure I got everything, you know, it's progressing correctly. So once I saw that it was, I went ahead and did the same step with the pink background. So we're attaching the strips and the decorative square going horizontal on these. And then we're going to go ahead and get the circles attached. And now the black and white circle I'm just putting down with the tape runner and glue, but the sentiments that are going to go in the center, we're going to use some foam circles here to give it a little bit of dimension. And I did find that holding it up so I could look at it kind of like directly straight on it made it easier for lining up. And I think I still wind up getting it just a little bit off, but I liked how they turned out. So once we get these attached, sorry about that, I wound up having to reach for something and it took longer than I thought, so, but we came back. We go ahead and get that attached, and then same thing with the foam pop-ups. We attach the sentiment to these as well. And I had already in my mind decided that we were going to be doing Nouveau drops, especially with the green. I really like using the green one. And then on the pink one, we're going to use the Enchanted Gold. Alright, and then those are our 4 cards. And just be careful when you use the Art Nouveau to make sure you let it dry. And I'm just showing you in the back of the 6.5 by 6.5 pads for Kaisercraft, they have those pull aparts in the back. You can use them as sentiments like I did here. There's so many options that you have, okay? So thank you guys for joining me. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and share button. And at the very end, I will have links to previous sketch videos. And I will see you guys with the next one. My next video should be this Sunday. I'm doing a retake on the technique using foil with adhesives. And I'm using it on a layout. So make sure you come check that out. Thank you guys and have a great day.